Last weekend, I was cleaning out my desk drawer and found an old phone I hadn't used in 3 years. I charged it out of curiosity, and the first thing that popped up was a text thread with someone I used to date. I started scrolling, not because I missed her, but because I wanted to see how much I had changed since then. And honestly, what I saw made me put the phone down and just stare at the wall for a few minutes. Every single message she sent me, every single casual question, every single time she went quiet, every single time she brought up another guy's name or a future plan or a deep fear, it was all a test. And I failed almost every single one. Not because I was a bad guy, but because I had no idea I was being tested. I thought we were just texting. I thought she was just making conversation. I thought her silence meant she was busy. I thought her disagreement meant she was difficult. I thought her vulnerability meant she was just emotional. But looking at those messages with 3 years of distance, I could see the pattern so clearly it was almost embarrassing. She wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't playing games. She was doing what every woman does. She was running background checks on my emotional stability, one tiny interaction at a time. And because I didn't know what to look for, I kept responding in ways that made her nervous system log me as unsafe, unstable, not the one. Today, I want to walk you through the 5 tests that almost every woman runs, usually without even realizing she's doing it, and almost every man fails because he's looking at the surface instead of the signal. Once you see these, you can't unsee them. And once you know how to pass them, you stop getting ghosted, you stop getting friend-zoned, and you stop wondering why she pulled away when everything seemed fine. So get comfortable. Let's read those texts together. If you're finding value in these conversations, hit subscribe and turn on the notifications. I'm building something here for men who want to understand women beyond the recycled advice that keeps getting regurgitated online. Next week, I'm going deep into the exact moments that make a woman decide you're her person versus just another guy she almost dated. You don't want to miss that one. Sign number 1, the silence test. This is the most common test, and it's the one that destroys more connections than anything else. She goes quiet. Maybe for a few hours, maybe for a day. Maybe she reads your message and doesn't reply immediately. And here's what 90% of men do. They panic. They send a follow-up text, then another, then they start asking if everything is okay, then they start apologizing for things they didn't even do wrong, then they start writing paragraphs, explaining themselves, and every single one of those messages is a failing grade on her test. Because what she was testing was simple. Can he handle space? Can he handle my absence without collapsing? Can he maintain his emotional center when he doesn't have my attention? When you blow up her phone, when you demand reassurance, when you make her silence about your anxiety, you tell her nervous system that your emotional stability depends on her responses, that you're not solid on your own, that you need her to constantly feed you validation, and that is terrifying to a woman. Because if you fall apart over a few hours of silence, what will you do when real life gets hard? What will you do when she's sick, when she's stressed, when she genuinely can't give you attention? The man who passes this test does almost nothing. He lets the silence exist. He trusts that she's busy or thinking or living her life. He doesn't chase. He doesn't interrogate. He simply continues being himself. And when she comes back, he's calm. He's not bitter. He's not needy. He's just present. That calm in the face of silence is one of the most attractive signals you can send, because it tells her, I'm okay with or without your attention. I choose you, but I don't need you to survive. That distinction is everything. Sign number 2. The disagreement test. She challenges something you said. Maybe it's a small opinion about a movie. Maybe it's a political view. Maybe it's how you handled a situation at work. Most men see this as conflict, and they either immediately back down to keep the peace, or they get defensive and start arguing. Both fail. When she disagrees with you, she's not trying to start a fight. She's testing your spine. She's checking if you actually believe what you say, or if you're just saying things to impress her. She's checking if you can handle her being different from you without getting threatened. She's checking if you have a frame that can hold both of you without collapsing. If you immediately agree with her just to avoid tension, she feels like she's with a man who has no center, who will say anything to keep her happy, who has no actual opinions of his own. And that makes her feel unsafe, because she knows that a man without a spine can't protect her from the world. But if you get defensive, if you turn it into an argument, if you make her feel stupid for disagreeing, you fail too. Because then she sees that your ego is fragile, that you can't handle being challenged, that you need to win every conversation. The man who passes this test stays calm. He listens. He says, I see why you think that. I don't fully agree, but I respect your perspective. He holds his ground without crushing hers. He has a frame, but his frame has room in it for her. That balance of strength and openness is rare, and when she finds it, she stops testing as hard, because she feels the ground beneath her feet. She feels like she's with a man who knows who he is, but who isn't trying to make her small to feel big. Sign number 3, the vulnerability test. She shares something heavy. Maybe it's about her past. Maybe it's a fear she has. Maybe it's a moment she regrets. Maybe she cries in front of you. Most men fail this by either trying to fix it immediately or by making it about themselves. She tells you she's scared of being abandoned, and you say, "Well, I would never do that. I'm not like your ex." You just made her vulnerability about your ego. She tells you she's struggling with anxiety, and you say, "You should just try meditation. My sister does it, and it works." You just turned her emotions into a problem to be solved. She tells you something deeply personal, and you immediately share your own story to show you understand. You just hijacked her moment. What she was testing was your capacity to hold space, to witness her without trying to change her, to let her be messy without needing to clean it up, to let her feel heavy without needing to make her light for your own comfort. The man who passes this test says very little. He listens, he nods. He might say, "That sounds really hard. Thank you for trusting me with that." He doesn't try to fix. He doesn't try to one-up. He doesn't try to make it better. He just stays with her in the darkness. And that presence in the darkness is what builds the deepest trust a woman can have. Because every other man in her life has tried to fix her, change her, or run from her when she got real. The man who simply stays becomes unforgettable. Let me pause here and ask you something real. Think about the last time a woman opened up to you emotionally. Did you try to fix her, or did you just stay with her? Drop the word "stay" in the comments if you're learning this. I want to know who's really hearing this. Sign number 4, the social test. She mentions another man. Maybe it's a coworker who complimented her. Maybe it's a guy from her past who texted her. Maybe it's just a friend who did something nice. Most men implode here. They get jealous, they get possessive, they start asking questions, they start making accusations, they start trying to assert dominance, and they fail the test completely. Because what she was testing wasn't your jealousy. She was testing your security. She wanted to know if you trust yourself enough to not be threatened by every other man in the world. She wanted to know if your confidence is real, or if it's just a mask that cracks the moment she mentions someone else. The man who passes this test doesn't ignore it, but he doesn't explode either. He might say, "Sounds like a nice guy. I'm glad you have good people around you." He doesn't compete. He doesn't interrogate. He stays calm because he knows his value. He knows that if she wants to leave, she can leave. But he also knows that a woman who feels trusted doesn't want to leave. A woman who feels monitored and suspected starts looking for the exit. Your jealousy doesn't keep her loyal. Your security does. When you show her that you're not threatened by the world, she feels safe standing next to you. Because she knows you're not a man who falls apart when the wind blows. You're a man who stands still in the storm. Sign number 5, the future test. She brings up something months away. A wedding she wants to attend together, a trip she wants to plan, a holiday with her family. Maybe she just casually says, "Where do you see yourself in a year?" Most men freeze here. They get vague. They say, "We'll see." They change the subject, they make a joke, and they fail. Because what she was testing was your capacity to see a future with her in it. She wasn't trying to trap you into marriage. She was checking if you're the kind of man who can hold a vision, who can plan, who can say, "I want to be there with you," without panicking. The man who passes this test doesn't propose on the spot, but he doesn't run either. He engages with the idea. He says, "That sounds amazing. Let's start looking at dates." He shows her that he's not just living day by day, that he's building something, that he has enough emotional stability to imagine a future and not be terrified by it. That might sound like a small thing, but to a woman, it's massive. Because every man can be fun for a weekend. But the man who can see her in his future, who can talk about it calmly, who doesn't treat the idea like a threat, that man is the one she starts building around. That man is the one she stops testing so hard. Because she feels the ground under her feet. She feels like she's standing next to someone solid. So there you have it. 5 tests: silence, disagreement, vulnerability, social, future. Most men will live their entire lives failing these tests without ever knowing they were tests. They'll think she was being dramatic, or difficult, or confusing, but she wasn't. She was gathering data. She was trying to figure out if you were safe, and now that you know what she's looking for, you can give her the one thing that makes every test stop: calm, consistent, grounded, presence. When you become that, she stops testing because she already knows the answer. She already knows you're solid. She already knows she can rest with you. And that rest is what every woman is actually looking for. If this conversation opened your eyes, Hit that like button so more men who need this can find it. Subscribe and turn on the bell if you want to keep going deeper on understanding women, building real connection, and becoming the kind of man who passes every test without even trying. Drop a comment below with the number of the tests that hit you the hardest. And if you know a guy who's constantly confused about why women pull away, send this to him. Not because he's failing, but because he deserves to know the rules of the game he's already playing. Until the next time we talk, stay calm, stay grounded, and stay present. This is Mind of Connection. I'll see you soon.